the start of the ADB today due to the snow. Even though from time to time I will decide the delay or the cancel the class in case the weather is severe. So because usually based on my experience, the UV is very slow to announce the morning, the event. So afternoon, if we have snow, so sometimes close the campus or something like that, but in the morning it's not. So in case the snow, so please stay tuned on the campus method. Then either the delayed start or the cancel. In case of cancel, sometimes I will do the online class using the canvas, or it can be recorded. So please, in case there's snow in the morning, so regardless of the decision of the UB campus usually do not close the canvas unless there's really the heavy snow here. Also, the Bridgeport is shoreline, so it's less snow than the inland. So usually do not judge the class whether class is going on or not, so just stay tuned on the campus method. So today we are going to start chapter 4. Before that, we will finalize chapter 3 regarding to the ER, the modeling, and then the Thursday we have exercise lab. For the exercise lab, we are going to practice one of the modeling tool, which is most popular one, always software. For that practice, the last the semester and the classes, I provide license the Irwin software, but recently they do not provide the licensed one. Instead, they suggest the Irwin. They suggest the start trial method, so you can use the download. And I think that you need to please install only the data modeler. We are not going to use the full package of the Irwin software, so you can try for free. Yeah, but you need to fill out something information about that when you press the try now. So you need to fill out some basic form. Okay, so it will be okay to use for educational purpose, not commercial purpose. Okay, so please install that. You can use the Irwin software for your project, or if you believe that you are familiar with the other modeling tool or the Visio, so you can use the others. But for your practice, so on Thursday we will have the exercise lab for the Irwin software. So that. I have another announcement. So the Kunyan have been the GA last 2 weeks, but unfortunately he, due to his personal reasons, so he needs to leave the GA position. Instead, I'm going to hire the new the GA Hindu. Yeah. So.
Hi everyone, I'm Hindu. So if you have any doubts regarding ADP, please contact me.
She was one of the best students the last semester, so I think that you can get more information. And Kunyan, and also Kunyan, he will help throughout the semester because he has a lot of experience on the programming, especially the database programming using the GCP. So from time to time he would give the more like the lab, or he can help me also. Okay. I will announce the office hour for the Hindu sir soon. And the last class, I think that we complete the ER modeling with finding relationship, and with several other attributes and so on. This is a notation for the ER diagram that we use. So this is not standardized. So this is one of the examples. So you will see different notation when you are doing the exercise on Thursday. So Irwin software will use the different notation. Sometimes it's called the information something retriever, IR the notation. And there's another simplified notation is a crow foot notation. Crow is one of the bird. So using the crow foot, like it utilized like this one. This is a many side. This is the one side. Like this one, many to many. It's a crow foot, the notation. And also there are many others. So it's up to you to use the. Also we have used the min-max notation. That is a variation of this one. It's up to you, but for in your project and in your exam, please try to use our notation used in the textbook. But in case you are familiar with the other, like the UML, you can use. But if possible, please use the notation that we used in the classroom. Then the one remaining thing is the higher degree relationship. So far we have talked about the relationship between the entities. The employee works for department. At the time, the employees and the department are the two entities. So we usually find the relationship between the two entities. Even though the supervisor employee supervises the employee, another employee. But even at that time, both of them are the same entity, like the employee. But we regard this case as the two entities: the employee for supervisor, employee for the supervisor. For example, the employee works for the department. At the time, the two entities are involved for the one relationship. Even though we have the employee and the employee. One is used for the supervisor. This is a supervisee. Okay, so we represent this one as the employee and supervisor. So one-to-many relationship like this one. But even at that time, we consider the entities are involved for one relationship. So this is called the binary relationship because the two entities form the one relationship. There are the relationship that involve more than two entities. So that is the multi-degree, higher degree, the relationship. Today we are going to briefly see such cases. So let me use this one. For example, the top one. So supplier is the person or the company or business group. The supply is the relationship. The supplier supply the project. So the supplies. So for example, S1, the supply, the project 1. So this is the relationship, one relationship. However, for one object, sometimes the supplier supplies. So item 1. Item 1, supplier S1 supplies the item 1 to the project 1. That makes sense, right? So at that time, how many the entities? The supplier and the item and the project. So three entities are involved for supply the relationship. So that is the example of the entities, the relationship. So at the time, the part is the one entity, supplier is one entity, the project is another entity. Three entities are involved the relationship. This is called the ternary relationship. So eventually there might be the 4, 5, 6 entities in the relationship. So we call that is a multi-entity relationship as the ternary relationship. N number of but mostly so I have seen the ternary relationship, but I never seen actually the 4 because we will see why. So 4 or the 5 I never seen. The ternary relationship 3 the entities in one relationship may be possible. So we will see. So usually, instead of this is the high level, the conceptual level design. Okay, conceptual level. Practically, most of the person, most of the engineer, most of the designer will think about such a combination of three binary relationships. Like this one, supplier supply the project, works for the project, and supplier can supply or has the part, and this part is used in the project, like this way. So we can represent such a ternary relationship with the three or the n number of binary relationship. Okay? Then question. This is a ternary relationship. This is the n binary relationship. Are they the same meaning or not? Is it identical or not? No? Yes? No? There are some no, but shy to raise your hand. So it's the different. So wow. For example, the supplier S1 can supply the part. How many parts? Let's say P part 1, part 2, part 3. Okay? 3 of them. Then the project use only P1 and P2. That makes sense. That may be possible. But what about the P3? P3 is not used in the project, but it may be supplied by the S1 supplier. Okay? Then the S1 supply the project. So, but this P3 cannot be happen in the A. A is more strict. Okay? That is actually conceptual level, but the two make it the simplified. Like the three binary relationship, there might be additional relationship. Okay, so you should be careful. So in other words, when you build the database or the system, the sum of the data never been used, but it may be possible in your database. Okay, so in this case, you should be careful to make the constraint. This will not be in your database. Also, another way to represent the ternary relationship is, so we can create one more entity. This is also the general case to represent the n-ary relationship, the multiple entity relationship. Like we can create the entity instead of the binary, the ternary relationship. We will see such an example in the later. Even on Thursday, when you practice the many-to-many relationship, you will see there might be option to convert whether many-to-many relationship will be additional entity or keep the many-to-many relationship. If you don't understand right now, don't worry. So we will talk about that in the later chapter to when we convert the ER diagram to the relational database model. So at that time, so such a many-to-many. So many-to-many are very hard to manage in the database system. In our conceptual level, in our mind, in the real life, it's no problem. So many employee works for the many project. So it's a many-to-many relationship. It's fine. In the database or the system, it's not that simple. So how many hours for the project and how many hours for employee? We need to consider both of them to find the number of hours. That happen in the many-to-many. So in this case, to deal with the many-to-many relationship of many-to-many, the supply, so we will create one more additional entity. That is one of the way to address the problem of the many-to-many later. So we will use such a future, the alternative way. In this case, so we can have the supplier has the relationship of the supply is one-to-many. Okay, the one supplier can later is kind of the group of the what else? It's a group. So it's a supply group. So this supplier can join the supply. Then the project can join the group, then they will match. The supplier supplies the project. Similarly, that group has the supported use the part. So we can have the one-to-many, 3 one-to-many relationship with this one. At the time, this supply is the weak entity because it will be identified by the supplier and the project and part to keep the same information as this. Otherwise, there might be the supply that will not be in the project, but only the supplier and part like this. So many of the cases, real life project, instead of the ternary relationship, we use either this one or this one. So in case you use the entity binary, the relationship, you should be careful to make the constraint, the condition that will be the same as this one. So this may be also possible. Later we will see this case, how to handle this one to create the database. So this is the ternary relationship. This is another example. So instructor offer the semester, which means instructor works for the specific semester. That doesn't mean always offer the classes. So instructor offer the class in specific semester. That is a ternary relationship. However, if you just create without this one, 3, the binary relationship, so it will be this case B. So at that time, the instructor can teach the course, many courses, but may be offered in the semester, may not be offered in the semester. So in this case, we combine the A and B together. A and B together is too much strict. It will not be practical in the database. But this is another example of the ternary relationship. Okay. So that is the end of the ER modeling. So this is one of the example of the extended university database. So as I announced last week, so we are going to use the 2 sample database. One is the university database, another one is the company database. So this will be one of them. So if you can understand meaning of this one, I think that you understand the ER modeling. For example, the college, there will be number of colleges, right? So like the School of Engineering or Art and Science and the college and so on. There each college has the unique name and that the college has a dean. Okay? One of the instructor will be the college dean of the college. Why? Because it's a minimum 1, maximum 1. So minimum 1 the dean and maximum 1 dean from the instructor. However, not all of the instructor are the dean. So minimum 0 college dean, maximum if you are the dean of one college, that is the maximum. Okay. Sometimes you can be the dean of the School of Engineering as well as Art and Science. You should change this one into 2 or the n. So you should be able to understand the meaning of this. One more thing is, for example, the college admin, the number of department. So you can see the 0. Some of the colleges may not have the department. For example, I think the Columbia University does not have such a number of departments. Instead, they have the full pool of the instructor or the pool of the program. So 0 and the number of the department. Each department should belong to one college. Administrated by the one college. Then the department has how many unique attributes? 2. D name or the D code. So you can use either of them as a key. So 2 keys in this case. Then the one more thing, which one? So employees. So this is the instructor, as the many instructor, the many. This is a min-max notation, so you should be careful. The meaning of this one is many the instructor employed in the one department. And this one is each instructor is one department, minimum one, maximum one, which means it's mandatory, and so on. So you should be able to understand such a meaning of the ER diagram. I think that if you can understand, then or if you can translate, interpret the meaning of the university database, that will be fine. So that is the objective of the ER diagram. Any question for this, the ER diagram? Yes.
You said that each department has unique keys.
So each department there are two keys.
This is just in a conceptual mode, not in.
Yes, this is a conceptual model. So I don't know why this is just one of the example of the ER diagram, conceptual model. From this diagram, each department has a unique name and a unique code. Okay. And for example, the student has the student ID is the unique, the attribute, key attribute, and the name can be the composite, the attribute in this case. Yes.
So now in between, for example, section and instructor, right?
The section and course. Which one?
So instructor teaches section,
Okay,
right?
This one.
So before we were saying that if it's like if it must be the link, we're putting two lines, right? So we put like two numbers.
Because this is a min-max notation, we don't have to use the single line or double line. So if you are using the traditional the constraint, the notation like the one to many, many to one. So in this case, the section is the taught by the one instructor, at least one. So which means it's the full participation. However, instructor can teach many courses, or sometimes no. So for example, it's my the sabbatical, so instructor doesn't have to teach. Okay, so which means it's a one to many. Okay, it's a one many section, but this should be double line, but this can be the single line. Okay. In terms of the traditional, the constraint, the notation of the cardinal notation of the ER diagram. Okay, so be careful. The min-max and the cardinal notation it looks like the opposite because it represents the participation, the minimum one, maximum one taught by the instructor. So if you are using one to many, many to one, this side should be n. Because number of section will be taught by one instructor. No. So one instructor can teach the number of. That's a slightly different meaning. Okay. Yes.
The department employs instructor. Why is the minimum 0 there?
The department
Employs instructor.
Instructor. This one.
Yes.
I don't know why, because that's the meaning of this one. So, but if I interpret the meaning of this, so for example, the department has the number of the instructor, right? But the some of the department may not have instructor. In this case, okay?
But they all.
Yes, not my decision. So somebody did. So that's what I'm saying. When you design, so when you draw the EI diagram for real life project, so first thing is not your experience. First thing is not your knowledge. Instead, starting from the customer request, customer requirement. Then mostly it's not very clear. At the time, you can discuss with your customer whether this is the really 0 or the 1. Okay, this case is possible or not. Then if your customer are not clear, then you need to analyze your application. Okay, application requirement, whether you use this one as a key or the unique or sometimes optional. Then finally, based on your knowledge or experience, you can decide. Okay, so that is the common mistake. So many of the students, just the company always has a number of departments. Each department has one chair. Who knows? It can be the multiple chair or one chair or it's optional. So it's based on the requirement of the person.
Professor?
Yes.
Department 1,1 is there. That means department should be there in a college and it is mandatory.
So for example, in this case, it's 1,1 chair the instructor, which means department must have one instructor, okay, as a chair. Okay, but for the instructor side, if instructor is a chair, it's a maximum one. But some of them are not chair, not participation. Okay, it's a little slightly the confusing part, the min-max, but you can understand how to participate in this relationship. That is a way to understand the min-max notation. Okay, so that's the end of the EI diagram. As I introduced, there are many. The modeling tool, you can draw the EI diagram as you did in your homework, using the handwriting, but most of the case, which is not practical, so we use the software. There are a bunch of the software for the modeling. Some of them are most of them are not only for the modeling, conceptual modeling. Instead, it can be used for entire project management. So, for example, the IBM rational loss is the project management. So, which means if you, for example, the modeling the entire project, it will create automatically the component or some classes. Then what you need to do is just add the programming logic, okay, business logic. And the Orange software is one of the most popular ones. The Orange software, the first started from the EI diagram only. But nowadays, if you connect the Orange software to your database, when you draw the entity, it automatically create the table in the database. And if you add a new color, it automatically add a new color. Or if you connect your Orange software to the existing database, automatically create the EI diagram. It's called reverse engineering. So it will be useful not only just creating the EI diagram, but also mainly for the entire database project also. So we will practice the Orange software on the Thursday. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter 3. So by Thursday, you have a homework to find the sample, the database, the description, then draw the EI diagram, okay? Then submit the question and answer for the EI diagram. You can include the EI diagram also, so it's up to you, but the description is the half page size, up to no more than 1 page, not too long, so half page or to the 1 page, and regarding to the EI diagram, not handwriting. Okay, so please use the tool or at least the video style the modeling. Okay, that will be easy for me and for GA to understand the UR. And one of them or the two of them will be used for the midterm exam. Okay, if you are selected. Okay, so then next topic is the entity relate extended one. So, when you are doing the conceptual level modeling for the entire database project, so as I just mentioned just before, most important thing of the conceptual modeling is whether you can understand the business logic or not. Okay, so anyway, so sometimes you can build the HR database, or sometimes you can build the university database or course management, but most of the database system, including most of the IT project related to the company. So which means it related to the money. Okay, so if you do not understand the money flow of the business and the company, it will be very hard to create the EI diagram, so such a conceptual modeling. Because of that, most of the conceptual modeling will be done by the consulting firm. Those consulting firm hire who? Accounting, or the financial expertise, not computer science expertise. So this is the conceptual modeling does not require the computer science skill, as you can see. Okay, so that is the most important part. That is also the same problem on the page 1 of the project. So in the phase 1 project, the more important thing is how you can design the auction, the database. Okay, so I'm going to create the used book auction site. Then you should be able to understand what kind of information will be used, what kind of information we need to keep for the used book, the auction site, and so on. Okay, then at the time, so you discuss with, for example, with your customer, then your customer mention about the employee. So we have the administrator. We have the secretary. So we have the engineer. Let's say technician. So we have the technician, secretary, and the engineer in our company. Okay? Then you may realize the technician is also an employee. Okay? And the secretary is an employee. And the engineer also is an employee. Okay? It's a different types of employees. So that means, so if you create the 3 entities, okay, just like the what we have done in the ER modeling, we create the 3 entities, then find the attribute, like the employee ID, and e-name, and the DOB. This one has the same, and the e-name, and the DOB, date of birth, and the EID, e-name, and DOB. And these are the key, and but it has something different attribute. For example, secretary is the typing speed, and the engineering type, and technician grade, T grade. Okay? So it's a fellow level, or the high level, or low level. So once after you design the employees by the technician entity, secretary entity, engineer entity, some of the information are common, like this one. And some of the information attributes are different. Then you may realize, why don't we manage together, okay? Together with this one, employee. And this one has the EID, e-name, and the DOB. Even though your customer mentioned only technician, secretary, the engineer, but you may realize, right? This one and this one, 3 entities have a lot of common information. So if we have the common information, so that means they are the same. If you remember the entity and the entity type, so when we list all the entity, they have the same attribute, right? So because of that, the idea of such a conceptual modeling is that we can grouping. Like the employee, and the employee has the name, ID, and address. So we create the employee or student entity. We can create the entity. How? By grouping the same attribute entity. So same idea here. If we have the most of them are the common, why don't we create the one entity? Even though